Hi, and welcome to That Digital Learning Show. We recently made our way to Sun City in the beautiful Pilanesberg in South Africa for Saphila 2017. Now this video is going to answer two questions. Firstly, what were some of the great shares that we took away from the conference? And secondly, did we manage to survive the festivities of Saphila? Let's go have a look. I'm going to have to ask you, because we're in cloud, so I want to get some of your feelings around cloud and client migration to cloud, and there's still some hesitance, certainly we experience. What is your take on the cloud?
Cloud is inevitable. Before joining SAP, and I joined SAP last September, before joining SAP I worked as an industry analyst.
Okay.
And I used to attend, one of the areas I focused on as an industry analyst was around energy. So I used to go to a lot of utilities events, and I remember having a conversation with an SAP executive back in 2013 in Berlin at the utilities event there, and telling him that 100% of utilities will be 100% in on cloud in 10 years' time, mark my words. And he didn't believe me. He said, no way. I had a conversation with him this year at the same event.
Yes.
And he was like, I remember that, Tom. And now he's seeing it. It's starting. The utility companies are starting to buy into the cloud solutions. And of course they are, because everyone else is, and because it's cheaper, and because it's easier to deploy, and because it's safer, it's more secure. Cloud is inevitable. Everyone will be 100% in on cloud in no time, because it's so much better.
Wonderful. Tom, perhaps just a last thing, is there a takeaway that you can give everyone attending Saphila this year? Something inspirational, something that you would like them to focus on?
I think probably the main takeaway is be open to change, because people tend to be wary of change, and that's okay, but it's inevitable, and embrace it. Because if you don't, and we've seen startup costs are coming down, if you don't, your competitors or new startups can appear out of nowhere and disrupt you completely.
Absolutely. With those words of wisdom, we're signing off. Tom, thank you so much for spending time with us, and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thanks a million. Thanks for having me.
Your experience, is it, you spoke about the demystification of digitization. Is it very different perhaps in Africa versus Europe, in your experience, in terms of the understanding of digitization?
Yeah, and that's a very good question. And in particular in regards of digital, I think and more to a surprise to some of my core European colleagues than to me, because I visit Africa on a regular basis. Africa is leapfrogging in many areas.
Okay.
Think, for example, digital transaction with currencies, mobile devices. This is way ahead of what we do in Europe, right? Of course, there are always questions about cloud software, bandwidth, but I've also seen a big progress over the last years. When I compare it like 4 years ago or now, it's a big difference. Some of our flagship solutions, like the digital boardroom, is investing into cloud software. And it reminds me, earlier this year I was at the Mastering SAP event in Joburg, and we're presenting the digital boardroom live on the touch screens. And after an extensive presentation, one of the customers asked, yeah, but what is about the performance?
Yes.
And I said, what do you mean? What is about the performance? And he said, yeah, we are here in Africa. What's about the performance? And I said, well, that is the live system. I mean, that is not a server here in the basement, right? When I touched the screen, the request went to a server in Walldorf in Germany, pulled the data out of the system and brought the results back. So the answer to what's with the performance or the bandwidth is, well, you never ask it when I showed it to you, right? So I think that is positive news.
That is absolutely positive news, yes. So the cloud is very topical.
And what are your views in terms of the cloud?
So the cloud's happening very, very fast. Maybe faster in other parts of the world than in Africa, but nonetheless still fast in Africa. And yes, we have some challenges. We have relatively expensive broadband in our country and beyond, although it's actually better in other parts of Africa. And there are concerns, in many people's minds about, is this technically feasible? I would say you've got to look at that, but very definitely our customers are moving to the cloud. And we can see that reflected in our own business, where the shift to the cloud versus on-prem is happening really, really fast. So it's almost inevitable, I think, that companies will recognize, if I can get someone else to run this thing at scale, if I can get them to run it more securely than I'm able to do because of that scale, then it makes a lot of sense to move stuff to the cloud.
What would you say to a question that we still get quite often is the risk about my data in the cloud?
So the reality for many companies is that if they move to a cloud provider, for example SAP or any of our partners, they're going to find an environment that's operating at scale, that has the professional people in place to attend to all of these threats, that adheres to the various standards, the ISO standards and others that are required. So just from a security point of view, I'd say the companies should look very seriously at moving to the cloud to protect themselves, because they're going to have to open their kimonos anyway to their customers and their suppliers. Rather do that in a safe place, and the cloud's likely to be safer for most people. The second issue that often comes up is the notion of privacy. And again, I think the same arguments apply. If you take an SAP data center in Europe, it has to comply to the European data protection laws.
Correct.
Our POPI Act is to a large extent based on that, and our POPI Act actually allows for the fact that providing a customer knows this, you can keep their data in another jurisdiction that is at least as good as POPI, and certainly Europe and many others. Yeah, they certainly comply. So, I think, and as these realizations start to dawn on companies, they're starting to realize, okay, it's good, let's move, let's get this cloud thing going, and let's move our infrastructure, let's move our platform, let's take our ERP system and put it there, and let's free up this very scarce capacity we have in our business to focus on moving our business forward rather than just keeping the lights on.
Brilliant, well said. So what are you guys looking at, perhaps taking us a little bit into the future? What are the areas of interest that you guys are unpacking?
Sure, so I think two things I've seen over certainly the last sort of 6 months is the area of predictive analytics and the area of moving into the cloud. And these are two really important areas. In the area of predictive analytics, customers are doing exactly what I talked about earlier. Doing the what-if analysis, looking at your financials, taking external circumstances into consideration when making decisions in the boardroom. And the use of machine learning and predictive analytics is really, really important in this space. So there's many, many use cases for predictive analytics attached to predictive maintenance, attached to fraud management, attached to marketing campaigns, sentiment campaigns, etc. So that's an area that many of our customers are talking to us about right now. And then the second thing is, of course, the cloud. Everyone's talking about the cloud. How are we going to adopt the cloud? Is it going to be a hybrid type transformation? Yes. The great thing about SAP is that we've got a full suite of applications for analytics in the cloud, which I think sets us apart from many of the other vendors out there. We've got an analytics solution that delivers the core BI solutions in the cloud through the SAP Cloud Platform. On top of that is our planning solutions, which are coupled together with that, and then the machine learning predictive capabilities. So, this is really exciting for us because it's not just a case of doing planning in the cloud or BI, but bringing these three things together, planning, predictive, and the normal BI type solutions are really, really important to our customers. To be able to deliver that in a cloud application is excellent. Wonderful.
Perhaps one word of inspiration, one key concept that you want to perhaps leave with our audience?
Very often, during a long time, we believe that those digitalization topics will be new applications application, new acquisition, and new investment decisions. They are not. The existing landscape that SAP is delivering, I mean the one just before the Leonardo, is of an excellent value, even the one of the other vendors. The SAP value proposition and the new angle we see this is that we want to help to add a very thin layer of intelligence to get a lot of more outcome of what the application can do. What does it mean? You have the application and you can improve capacity of people to use it, shorter time to learn, and better result today. This is the value proposition we do with those new teams at SAP.
That's a compelling value proposition to customers out there.
It's a nice challenge. We are very, very ready to take it and offer customer success.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your
Thank you very
time.
much, Ali. It was a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Great. Well, I think we've had an answer to our questions. Certainly the first one, I think there were some great takeaways from Saphila 2017. In terms of surviving Saphila, did we survive? Barely. Hope to see you soon in another episode of That Digital Learning Show.